Well, hey, this is Bill Kerr, the truly American hero, and the story. I wanted this story to be told, and this is what this man did. It's amazing. The greatest generation this America ever knew, right here.
My name is William Kerr. I'm a World War II veteran. I've agreed to this interview because after countless times my family wanted to know what I was doing. When I found out my own family didn't know what I did in the war, I thought maybe it's time that I did write it all down or get a record of it, which we are doing now. I enlisted right after Pearl Harbor, and I falsified my birth certificate, and I enlisted in Steubenville, and they sent me to Cleveland, 110 miles away, and someone there seen the clumsy attempt we made. They sent me back home. I was only 16. They made me wait 3 months before I could join the Navy, and I was furious because all my buddies went in and I had to stay home. But I finally got in April, on my birthday, April the 12th, in 1942. Went to Great Lakes, went through boot camp, and went through 16 weeks of gunnery school. And then they transferred me to Boston. And Boston is probably the finest city I've ever been in, the most patriotic people I've ever known. And while in Boston, we worked the ship docks every night and waited for they were building a minesweeper for us at that time, but I didn't know it. And anyhow, at the appropriate time, they transferred me to New York, Pier 91, which is famous. It's called the American Nazi Camp. But thankfully, I was only there a week or two, and they sent me to our ship, which is I forget the name of the island. Anyhow, they put us aboard ship, and we refitted it. It still wasn't ready, so we did all the necessary arrangements, got it ready. They sent us out on a sea run to shake it down, is what they called it, and we went north to Nova Scotia and run into some of the most miserable weather you ever seen. Sleet, ice, snow, and all we did was chip snow off the railings and everything. And anyhow, we were glad to get back to New York, and we passed with flying colors, so they commissioned our ship and said we're ready to go. And we got underway and found out we were going to go to the Caribbean. And we were all elated. We figured there's a war going on and we're going to vacation land. So our first stop was Norfolk, and just the opposite of Boston. It's probably the worst city I was ever in. They had signs around town that said no dogs or sailors allowed. But we only spent one night there, so we got out of there, went to Guantanamo. We stopped at Miami, then went to Guantanamo. And then we went on down to Trinidad. And Trinidad was a shock to us because it's an island, and it's a big island, and it's to hear all the black people speaking with a British accent was quite a shock to all of us, and they all did. They all had this Hackney accent. But we stayed there for a while, and it wasn't bad. It was pretty good. But we left there heading for Aruba, which was going to be our home port. And halfway there, we're in the middle of the Caribbean Ocean. They had a transfer of command. They changed captains. Our captain stepped down, and the executive officer moved up to take his place as captain. And to celebrate, part of the celebration, and I have photos of all this, part of the celebration was that they had a water battle between the deck force and the black gang. The deck force is the boatswain mates, the seamen, the signalmen, the quartermaster, the radio men, etc. The black force is all the electricians and all the motor machinists and the fellows that work below decks. I slipped through the line and doubled up the hose on the black gangs and wrapped my knees around it and shut their water off. Naturally, we were winning big time. Well, the chief machinist mate, Kennedy, he weighed at least 300 pounds. He grabbed that hose and he whipped it up in the air, and I went with it, and I went over the side. I hit my butt on the gun rail, But before I hit the water, I could hear the guys yelling, "Man overboard." But when I hit the water, the only thing I could hear was those horrible propellers down there. And I kept thinking, my God, they're going to grind me up in them things. And I started swimming furiously away from the ship because I did not want to get caught in them props. And to this day, those props are with me every day of my life. You know, that sound will never go away. Anyhow, I come up, and one of the men had thrown the life ring over, and I swam over to the life ring, and my ship was about a mile away. And I'm wondering why it's taking them so long to do anything, but anyhow, they finally turned and come back. And when they come back, the bow was lifting out of the water because we had like a 5-foot sea, and I started swimming away from it. And they were yelling at me, "Stop swimming, we're putting the lifeboat down," which they did. And who's in the lifeboat? Mr. Kennedy. And we, like I say, I have pictures of this. And anyhow, they got me back aboard, and everybody was happy. And we went on to Aruba, and naturally no mention was made of that in the ship's log. That'd be a bad mark on the officers. So we patrolled, and the tankers coming from Venezuela to Aruba, that was our basic duty rather than minesweeping. We were trying to protect these tankers because the Caribbean was pretty heavy with the German U-boats. They sink anything that they could sink in there because they knew where it was going. It was going to Africa or Europe. And that was their job. And our job was to sink them. And somewhere off New Orleans, and I'm hazy on this, I think it's like 110, 20 miles, a Coast Guard cutter signaled me and said they picked up a German submarine, and they had been running him and dropping charges on him, and they were out of charges. And they wanted to know if we had any, and we said yes we did, but we didn't have any sonar. So we got on the Coast Guard's tail and followed him around, and whenever he'd give the signal, we'd let loose on our K-guns to throw the depth charges out to the side. Well, before we did that, we dropped one from the stern, then two from the side and one from the rear. Made a perfect pattern. And eventually we had all kind of garbage come up out of that water from, you know, oil, clothing, paper, but they wouldn't give us credit for the kill because there was no bodies. So we were sort of stuck there. We couldn't do nothing about that.
So you guarantee you sunk a submarine about 150 miles off the coast of New Orleans?
Yeah. Oh yeah, it's
Yeah, so you had if all that garbage is floating up, you had it broken up the capsule of the submarine.
well, what they do, they stuff all that stuff in their torpedo tubes and send it up to deceive us.
Oh,
you know.
okay.
And that's why they wouldn't give us credit. We needed a body.
Oh.
But but that's all been proven since the war ended. They got these records from Germany that they did lose a submarine there.
Do you know if anybody ever went and looked for it, or?
No, I don't. So that part I'm not even sure about. Let's see where we're at here. Okay, we serviced for almost a year. Serviced those oilers, tankers going back and forth, back and forth.
From Venezuela to America?
Aruba.
Oh, to Aruba?
That's where the big oil refineries are.
Okay, and then they'd ship out the gas
Yeah.
for the war machine from there, okay.
So we finally got orders, and we were tickled to death. We went down through the Panama Canal. We went into the Pacific, went up the other side to Nicaragua.
Now, hold on a second. You had an interesting story about them two German officers going into Venezuela to watch a movie?
Oh, yeah, no, Aruba.
They went into Aruba.
Yeah.
So a U-boat come in and they come off the
And
U-boat?
that's a true story. You know, it actually,
Go ahead and tell the story.
okay, the story is that while we're doing all this patrolling and looking for these submarines and not having too much luck, we find out that the captain of one of these submarines would surface in the evening, and him and two of his buddies would get in a boat and paddle over the shore and go up to St. Nicholas and go to a movie. He liked American movies. And they were dressed in civilian clothes, which
Wow.
they would have been shot as traitors. and they went back. They were never caught. I don't know who broke that story, but it's a true story. They actually did do that. But you got to remember those U-boat guys had more guts and more nerve.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
God.
you getting in a tube.
That was
going,
nothing to them,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I bet.
But that's just one of the side stories. So, anyhow, we went from there to San Pedro. San Pedro, we got our sonar finally, so we could hunt submarines. We got a new set of radar for our ship.
So, okay, now you were in a merchant ship. I don't think really clarified.
No.
Now, was it a naval ship
Yeah.
they built, but they regunned it for
Ours?
Yeah.
No,
Oh,
it's,
okay, that's right. Yours is built. For,
yeah, it's built.
alright.
It's a minesweeper.
Okay.
Yeah, it's built for.
Now, some of the other ships were merchant ships. They would just do for minesweeping.
They wouldn't, when they started out, they didn't have enough, so
Yeah.
they used trawlers and fishing
Okay.
boats. But they built 470 some YMS minesweepers,
Okay.
plus a lot of AM minesweepers, which were 270 feet. They were steel.
Mm-hmm.
We were wood.
You had a wood minesweeper?
Oh yeah, they're all made out of wood. There's no steel in them,
Oh wow.
so they didn't want to set off a
yeah,
magnetic
I guess.
mine.
Yeah, okay, I guess so.
So anyhow, when we got up there, we got re-outfitted. We got more machine guns, and we were in good shape. We left for Hawaii. Hawaii was still a mess, and still it was like Norfolk. It was just like a sardine can. You couldn't move for sailors, and it was, to us, it was an unpleasant experience. You know, we hated seeing all that devastation out in the harbor and all that crowding on the. So we left there for Anahuac. We were happy. Stopped at Anahuac and left there, and went down across the equator. And when we crossed the equator, us pollywogs were converted to shellbacks, and that's the ceremony. And included in the ceremony, they blindfold you. They make you eat eyeballs and worms. And the eyeballs, I found out, are grapes, and the worms are like noodles. And they shave you bald. And I have a picture of that. There's 8 of us, I think, bald-headed. But we became shellbacks, and then from there we went to Manus Island, which is an island in the Admiralty Island chain, which is right off the coast of Australia. And when we entered Manus, we were stunned at the size of the harbor first, and there must have been 1,000 ships in that harbor. We couldn't believe it. And we knew right then that something big was coming, and no one could find out what it was, but we finally got our orders to get underway, which we did, and we run into a typhoon. And what was worse than that, when we got underway, that 1,000-ship fleet didn't move. They just stayed there. And we said to the captain, how come they're not coming with us? And he says, well, they don't come. We go in 3 days ahead of time. We have to clear the place out, then they come. And we said, oh, that's just great. So we're riding this typhoon. In the middle of the typhoon, we're on the edge of it, thank God. But we weren't in the center. Tokyo Rose come on and says, I have a special message for you minesweeping boys heading for the Philippines. You need to write to your mothers or your wives because you're not coming home. We know where you are.
Wow.
And we're going to take care of you. So we still didn't know exactly where we were, but when the captain opened the orders, he said, well, this is it. We're going to invade Leyte, which is a large island in the Philippines.
So Tokyo Rose knew that and was letting.
Yeah,
wow.
you already know it.
But you guys were sweating.
Well, when we got to Leyte, we were in such bad shape. One of our minesweepers sank because of that storm, and all of us were in my minesweeper alone, the 398. We had 6 foot of water in the hold,
Oh wow.
and we only take 8 feet.
Oh wow.
So 2 more feet.
You had to be a pumps broke or what?
Well, no, you couldn't get it out of there
Wow.
that fast, because it's.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know about that.
No,
you gotta have them pumped. You gotta have them. A lot of them
You
ships
do.
will take water on, especially in a storm.
But to know how bad it is, I was on the flying bridge, which is as high as you get 45 feet off the surface of the water. Those waves were higher than that.
Yeah.
And when they come at you, you
Oh,
look and you
yeah.
say, "Oh my God!" You
So,
know,
yeah.
here it
I've
comes.
been in them. All you can see is water. When you're in them gullies,
Yeah.
literally you can't see sky.
No,
all you
no,
can see,
nothing.
all you can see is water.
But when you
It's
see the
trippy.
water coming, you say, "Oh,
Yeah.
we're going underwater," but you don't. You go.
Yeah.
It goes up like that. You go up to the top. When you go out, your propellers are out of the water.
Oh, it's,
They're just
I
bang.
was in them. Nothing like that. I mean, nowhere
Oh.
near it. And it, you know, and I was on a fishing vessel, and the old boy, he's in the Navy all his life, and he never puked in his life. And this is the first time I went out on this fishing. The first time I went out fishing on a real fishing boat, and he was puking. But, you know, it was nothing like that. And literally, you get down in them gullies. I don't think really nobody knows unless you're in them. It's impossible to see the sky. All you see is
you can't-
water.
you can't
That's
see
all
anything.
you see is water.
You can't signal anybody
No.
because when they're up, you're down, or they're down, you're
yeah.
up. But anyhow, we rode that all the way to Lady, and when we got to Lady, we were in such bad shape that they committed a sin. They broke radio silence, and they asked whoever's in charge of that thing, they says, "We want to abort the mission." And the reply come back, says, "You will complete the mission at all costs."
Yeah.
So as bad as we were, we had a sweep. And it was so bad for a while that we'd throw the floats over to sweep and they'd throw them back up on the ship. The seas, you know. We had one boy
Wow.
crushed his hand because of that. But anyhow, we did. We swept,
You think you didn't
we
get
cut
blown up?
mines, and we had what they call detonator ships, the little sub chasers that follow each 7 minesweepers and destroy the mines as you cut them. Well, it was so rough, they couldn't find them. So a lot of the mines we
wow.
cut were floating around free. They never did find them.
Ooh, man, that could be a heart
And-
attack.
Well, not only that, we sank some of our own ships
Oh,
when the invasion started because they were still floating around
Yeah.
there. They were never found. But that was the worst part. We knew that was going to happen because we didn't neutralize the mines. And our destroyer had what we call a mother. Every 7 minesweepers has a destroyer called the mother, and she takes care of them like a mother hen. And we were cruising at night, and we told her that she's getting out of the swept territory, and she says, "You will follow me, you know, I'm the boss," or whatever. And 10 minutes later, she hit a mine, and within probably 3 minutes, she hit another one. So she went down quite quick. And they lost, I have no idea, but I'd say she lost most of the men on board that thing because those 2 explosions happened so fast together.
Did anybody get rescued then?
Oh yeah, they
Okay,
picked up a lot of them, but a lot of them they didn't.
Yeah.
So anyhow, we secured the beach. We made our last pass right down as close to the beach as we could get, sweeping. And we looked at the beach and we said, "My God, there's nothing there. This is going to be a breeze." And it was, you know, they landed and all we heard was small arm fire. And Japanese were in foxholes, believe it or not, after all that bombardment. But it just amounted to like small arm fire. It wasn't that bad at all. And we figured, well, piece of cake. You know,
Yeah.
well, nothing to it, the actual invasion. So anyhow, we're sitting there resting, and we get, even though you sweep an area, you don't know if they come in and drop more mines by plane or by suicide boats or by whatever means. So you have to keep sweeping the same areas. We were sweeping outside the harbor, and I seen the black smoke pouring back into the harbor. I looked at it and I told the captain, I said, "Captain, something's going on back there, look at that." Well, then we seen a battleship start to come out toward us. Well, you don't move a battleship. You know, it's not that easy. They stay put where they're at. So the battleship signaled me and said, "Move." And I told the captain, "Move." And the captain says, "You tell him about maritime regulations." And I started to blink and he just shut me off real fast with a flutter. And he said, "Move or we'll blow you out of the water." And I told the captain that, and he turned as white as you could turn. And we had all that sweep gear out, which is expensive, you know. And we had to cut it all loose. It all sank to the bottom, and we scurried to get out of the road. And here come our 7th Fleet in entirety. Battleships, destroyers, cruisers, torpedo boats. And we said, holy mackerel, what's going on? And what was going on was the largest naval battle in the history of the world.
And they never give you a heads up.
No, nobody
It's
knew.
all secret, yeah. They
No,
want
they
to keep
didn't
that on
know.
the radar.
We didn't even know it then, but at the time. But they had 3 Japanese fleets, northern, center, and eastern. And we had 3 American fleets, Halsey's, and the 7th Fleet, and this other fleet, I forget the name of it, was down below. Anyhow, the bottom fleet come through Sargasso Straits, which is where we were, and we completely destroyed that fleet. They caught them in what they call the T formation, but they sank almost every major ship they had. The center fleet took a beating from our aircraft all the way in, but they still come down. They almost got to Leyte, but they didn't quite make it. They were beat up so bad they turned and went back. But the Eastern Fleet, it was his job when the Southern Fleet, the Center Fleet, devastated those 2 navies that we had. He was to come down and come in the harbor and just sit there and wipe out everything there was with them big guns of his, because we couldn't reach him.
Yeah, it was possible.
Oh, yeah.
That was a likelihood.
Yeah, and if he had have come in there, we'd be speaking Japanese today,
Wow.
because we'd have lost Leyte. And if we'd lost Leyte, then it would start going backwards again, back toward the United States
Wow.
instead of our way. But when he got almost to the entrance, the only thing we had out there, parts of the 7th Fleet, was what they call jeep carriers. They're the smaller carriers, are made from merchant ships, converted, and a lot of destroyers. Well, a destroyer has a 5-inch gun. The cruiser has an 8-inch, and a battleship has a 12-inch, 18-inch.
Mm-hmm.
So to go after them is suicide.
Yeah.
But those destroyers did such a great job. They went in there and attacked so hard and so heavy that admiral, that Japanese admiral, had made up his mind. He says, you know, they set a trap for us in there. We're not going in. And he turned around and left.
Wow.
And had he come in, there was nothing in there.
Nothing. Yeah.
Nothing
it would've
could
been
stop them.
It
Nothing.
would have been a dramatic outcome of the war.
Yes, it would have.
Yeah.
And like I said, we'd be speaking Japanese.
Wow. Or German.
Or German, but we're named Germans over there.
Yeah.
Anyhow, we lost, to give you an idea, I don't know how many ships were lost in those battles, but we lost 4 carriers.
4 carriers?
Yeah, they
Oh,
sank 4
and
more
that-
carriers.
Wow.
And the planes off of those carriers had no place to go. So Dulag, which is the city that they invaded, and Nicholas, they had an airstrip that was a Japanese airstrip that we had bombed that has potholes all over it. But the Seabees were trying to repair it in a hurry. And
Yeah.
they were doing a good job.
Wow.
But all these planes off those carriers were coming into land there, and most of them were crashing. But anyhow, the ones that didn't, the sad part was when they flew over our fleet, we shot them down.
Friendly fire. You
Yeah,
didn't know-
our
you
guys were
spooked,
so,
yeah.
by then they were so
Yeah.
traumatized with all that
Wow.
battle going on. The last one I remember is a Corsair flew over and the guy threw the hood back and he was standing up. I don't know how he's flying his plane because
Oh,
he was
wow.
waving both his arms, and they shot him down.
Oh, man.
And we shot down a Betty bomber, and we think we got a fighter plane, a Zero, we're not sure. But we are sure of the bomber. We watched him burn and crash.
Nobody got out.
No, so it blew up, you know, the fireball.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff the history won't teach you. It kind of buries.
So anyhow, that was the large, you know, when you went to school you heard about the Spanish Armada. That was the
Yeah.
biggest
Yeah.
battle ever. Well, this was bigger.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it's the largest sea battle in the world, and nobody ever heard of it. Battle of Philippine Sea.
Well.
So after that was done, we were licking our wounds, and we were out of everything as usual. So they sent us from Leyte to Manus Island, back to Manus to refit again, get more ammunition, more food, more whatever. And as we pulled into Manus, we were to tie up to the USS Mount Hood, which is an ammunition ship. And when we pulled in, it was getting late, and I couldn't find him on the light. So I contacted the harbor master, and he says, just tie up at the submarine base. And in the morning, he says, you get underway, and we'll guide you to the hood, which we did. After the captain ripped me a new one because I couldn't find the darn thing in the first place. So in the morning we got underway and we're on our way, and I'm trying to pick up the hood. I finally seen it a couple miles away, and it disappeared right in front of our eyes. The biggest explosion I'd ever seen in my life. It was like
the hood's a big battleship, by the way.
No, it's a big troop ship.
Okay.
Not a troop ship, a freighter.
The hood's a big freighter? And it carries ammunition?
That's all it carries,
okay.
Ammunition, just loaded with ammunition.
Oh, wow.
And they supply all the ships.
Uh-huh.
Anyhow, one of our guys finally had enough sense to yell duck, which we did. We got down below the bulkhead, and that stuff blew past us, and you could hear stuff hit the ship. But there was 872 men on the USS Hood, and 872 men died on the USS Mount Hood. And along with 3 minesweepers tied up on one side and a destroyer tied up on the other side. They all disappeared. No trace of any of them. And we went in to help because beside those was a whole bundle of ships that got damaged really badly because of that. And we went aboard one freighter and helped the guys if we could, and they had them lined up along the bulkhead, and they had already treated them and really doped them up on morphine because they could care less. Some of them didn't have a leg off or an arm off. They're sitting there smoking like it's an everyday event, you know.
Yeah.
Didn't bother them at all.
Wow.
But we did what we did there. It wasn't too bad. But when we got back to the ship, they took me off the ship again because I was a signalman, and they had a whole bunch of LCVPs, and they each had a coxswain to run it, and 2 seamen to take care of all the mattress covers aboard, and a signalman to keep in touch with the base and for whatever reason's going on. And we went around and picked up body parts. And that's all those seamen did. They'd shake out the mattress cover, scoop whatever they found in it, and when we got full, we'd take it back in and go back out for more. And they did that for 3 days, and I was never so glad in all my life to get back aboard my ship. You know, it just turned my stomach.
Well,
You know.
yeah, how old were you?
Well, right then I was probably 18. Yeah, I was 18.
You got in when you were 17?
Yeah, 17th birthday. Yep.
Wow. That'd be a hell of a thing to have to witness.
Oh, it
You know,
was. It was.
as a
It was
kid.
awful. It was really awful. But
Midwest boy, boy,
Yeah.
that'd be something.
the 2 men off the Mount Hood lived because they were aboard. They were on the beach picking up the mail,
Oh, wow.
and they had all that
And
mail.
just 2 guys.
Had all that mail. Nobody gave it to.
Wow.
Every soul on that ship died. Not one of them escaped. And I think pretty sure it was.
You said it was like an atomic bomb,
Oh, it
basically.
was. We didn't know what atomic bomb was. Then.
Yeah.
But that, to me, that's what
Big
it looked like.
mushroom cloud.
Oh my God! It was nobody got a picture of that. And that.
And today nobody knows exactly
No,
what happened.
I've got the newspaper clipping
Yeah.
about it. But that was just sad because there was no answer. Nobody knew how it happened or why it happened. All they knew was all them dead people were just blown to bits.
I got my grandfather's.
Yeah,
He was in the Navy.
that bracelet is 70 years old.
Yep.
My mom bought me that in 1942.
Oh, the Navy didn't give you that?
No, my mother bought me
I
that.
was gonna say. My grandfather's a little bit bigger. I got his Navy bracelet.
Oh yeah, the dog tag you mean?
It was a Navy bracelet with his name on it.
Oh,
It was a
yeah.
silver. It's just
No, my mom bought
just
that.
like that, except a little bigger I mean, same kind of model.
That's solid silver.
Yep. I don't think it's the solid silver.
So anyhow, we left Leyte to go to Lingayen Gulf, which was another invasion. I got my Bronze Star for, well, I had two of them by then. I had one for the naval battle and one for Leyte.
We'll say that for later on at
Okay.
the end. You tell exactly what you did. And
Anyhow, we
very
went
proud.
up to Leyte again, and we left Leyte, going down to Surigao Strait where the big battle took place. And the kamikazes, we'd never seen one. Well, we seen them there.
Okay, now what year is this?
At 44.
44. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
And but there's still a lot of war ahead.
I know, but I wouldn't say I'm a historian, but you know, I read up a lot about it. And I'm a World War II buff. I can tell you most of the details about the war. And the kamikazes were supposed to be late in the game. You know, it was supposed to be a game changer at the end, out of desperate.
Well, it is. It's in here.
But you're saying right from the get go there are kamikazes coming at you. Yeah,
Oh,
so that's
absolutely.
not stuff that you know that I was learning.
Because it was a shock to us. You know, we didn't.
Yeah,
we'd
no
see
doubt.
We'd see them coming down. We thought they were coming down to strafe us,
Uh huh.
which they did.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of their fighters strafed. They didn't do kamikaze, but a lot of them did kamikaze. And they also had, I told you, the three. Breakfast Charlie,
Yeah.
lunchtime Charlie,
Go
supper
ahead,
Charlie. And they sent them over 3 times a day just to make us go to general quarters about the time we're getting ready to eat, because we were already dead tired, dragging our feet. And it worked, you know. Everybody was in a stupor. But anyhow, we got past those, and we had a lot to talk about because we had never seen a kamikaze till then. That was something brand new. So we turned and went up toward Lingayen, and we passed Manila. Well, there was 2 Japanese destroyers waiting for us in Manila, and they waited till we got past them because the big destroyer was up here with his 5-inch guns. Back here there was nothing, just 3-inch guns.
Yeah.
And they were going to come out and just knock us off one at a time. And supply ships and everything, they don't carry that kind of weaponry either.
Yeah.
So they come up behind us, and we're having a heart attack because our mothership, the destroyer, is just sitting up there not going back. And everybody said, why don't you go back and fight them guys? Man, they're getting awful close. And what happened, he had called for air support. And he waited on the air support, and when the air support came, he turned and went back. And the 2 of them together, they sank both of those destroyers. So we're feeling pretty good about that. But the next day we're going up there, and here come the kamikazes again. And they just hit the little minesweepers, which they hardly ever do. You know, that's a waste of an airplane,
Yeah.
as far as they're concerned. They want the big guys. And one of them hit the tanker right next to us in formation. It hit the bridge and killed 14 men. But for some reason, that tanker did not blow.
You guys are lucky.
Oh, and
That would have been a massive explosion.
And the next morning, they held funeral service on our port side, and we were on our starboard side at attention out of respect till the service was over. And as soon as it was over, here they come again. But anyhow, we did make it up to Lingayen, and somebody made the statement, you know, those guys are really dumb, the kamikazes, because they come down, and it's so easy to miss you. And somebody on our ship, why don't they come in across the water? You know, how much more effective would that? That's what they did the next day. It was almost
Really?
like they heard him. And they
So they're gonna just above the water come
yeah,
at you?
they come in low on the
sideways,
water.
yeah.
You got to be careful. You can't even shoot them. You're going to shoot your own ships.
Oh yeah, crossfire. You
Yeah.
create a crossfire.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Oh
So-
yeah. Plus, if you hit the side of a vessel, it would be a lot more effective than coming down on top of it.
Yeah, and I left out at Leyte, the Japanese Zero strafed our ship and just blew the flying bridge to pieces of where I was at. It was me and the gunnery officer and I think 2 seamen. I was standing right beside the gunnery officer. He got shot in both legs. And then on the other side of me was the chart desk, they call
By
it.
the airplane, he got shot in both legs?
Yeah.
The 50 cal, right?
Yeah.
Blow his legs apart.
Well, he just got shrapnel off of him.
Oh, I was going to say, that'll blow your legs
What
apart.
he did, the chart desk where we kept all our binoculars and our sextant for navigation and all that,
Uh-huh.
blew it to pieces. That's on this side of me. And he was on this side of me. He got hit. This got hit.
An angel.
And he just, like I told you, that's a wooden
Yeah.
ship.
Yeah.
There was just wood flying everywhere, just
Yeah.
pieces of it. And he thought that's what he had. He got hit with splinters, But he didn't. He had shrapnel, iron shrapnel on both legs. They put him on a tow, went over to a destroyer, and they removed him. That's how he knew.
Oh,
And he went back and told the captain that he should have a Purple Heart. And the captain says, "I don't think so because we don't know who shot you."
oh, really?
Yeah, you believe that?
Vietnam, I've heard of a guy in Vietnam when they were bombing, they're doing bombing outside his barracks, and he broke a toe getting out of bed, and he got a Purple Heart for that.
Yeah,
They're crazy.
yeah. Well, anyway,
No, they're not doing it for that. Yeah,
he got his Purple Heart.
That's good.
Yeah, he did.
He should have.
But while we're in Lingayen, and I say they were devastating because they started coming in this way,
Yeah.
and we lost our first admiral there.
That's on TV only, in the war movies.
Yeah, they're all like this.
Dive bombing there, yeah.
Yeah, and getting back to what you were talking about, the last effort, and I'll get to that in a minute. But anyhow, we secured Lingayen, and then we left there and we went back to Subic Bay. We had an invasion there too. And right at the entrance of Subic Bay, there's this little island with a 10-inch railroad gun on it. Well, it belonged to the Americans before they got beat by the Japanese,
Uh-huh.
And we're thinking, what if them Japanese refitted that sucker, So we're going in, everybody's going, oh God, because you can see that thing down there, just pointing right out at you.
You're going right into certain suicide?
It was dead, I don't know what happened. It was rusty.
So had that been operational, you guys would
Oh,
have
my.
been eating some lead, huh?
Yep. So then we went to Corregidor. And it was so bad there, Corregidor is nothing but a rock full of holes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's guys in every hole, Japanese.
No, wow.
And we were trying to sweep, and they were hitting us so bad that that's the only time I remember we quit. They told us to back off, get out of there until we do some more aerial work on that rock.
Mm-hmm.
So we backed off at Corregidor, and I think we had maybe three sweepers got hit. Ours wasn't one of them. But the Air Force did their job, and they finally got everything cleaned up, and they got that taken care of. We went back to Leyte again, and getting ready for Okinawa. I guess the holdup was they couldn't decide whether they wanted to go to Okinawa or Taiwan, which was called Formosa at that time. But they decided on Okinawa. So we went up there and started sweeping. We started sweeping March the 29th. And 3 days later was the invasion. But we would patrol at night very slowly and very blacked out, trying to hide from them guys. And they had this little place called Karamareto. And that's where they hid all these ships at night. It was a perfect place for it, really. So we'd hide in there at night, and the next day we'd go out and start sweeping and get the socks blown off of us every time we went out. And it was rough. It was
You guys are
really rough.
eating fire, huh?
Huh?
You had small arms? What
Them
kind
darn planes.
Oh, planes?
All aerial then. By then, well, I take that back. All day long we were under enemy air attack. All day long,
Oh, wow.
That's why they asked me how many air attacks you were under. And I could say, well, if you go by the ship log, maybe 29.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go by actuality, it's probably like 80
Wow.
because they never stop.
Yeah.
And they'd come in and do it at 8 o'clock. They'd come back and do it at 9:30. Well, the officer wrote the ship's log. He just put enemy air attack.
Okay, so were they shooting 50 cals at you? Or what,
Yeah, whatever they got on them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they couldn't sink your boat, though?
Oh, yeah, sure.
They
Well,
could
I don't
sink
know
it.
if they'd sink it, no, but they'd sure tear it to pieces.
Yeah, okay.
But we endured that, and then one night they sent out a bunch of suicide boats. And they were, all they are is, we found out they had 1932 Chevy engines in them. Little Chevy straight six or something.
Yeah, you're going.
And the whole front's filled with dynamite.
Oh, man.
So they wreaked havoc for a while, and we finally caught somebody that had a smaller gun than we had. And we chased him all the way back to Naha, which is I think it's the capital city of Okinawa, I'm not sure. The river's named Naha, and he was headed for the river. And we knew if he got up the river, we was going to lose him.
Mm-hmm.
But just before he got there, we got him with our 3-inch gun, and just blew him all to pieces. But they had suicide boats. And, oh boy, let me get my breath here. Yeah, and after that, they put us on patrol duty, and they also outfitted our ship with smoke-making equipment. And it was used to cover our fleet from the air attack so that they couldn't find them. And we did that 83 times. We made smoke to cover the fleet. And it worked pretty good. So then the big one's coming up, and here it is. It's after the suicide boat attacks, we were assigned to smoke duty, which we did 83 times. And then, how do you explain this to people? You know, they say a lot of times a veteran didn't want to talk about what he's seen or what he did. And this is one of the reasons. If you see an airplane crash, it's a big thing. Mm-hmm. You see him crash and burn, and oh boy, that's something. How do you explain to the people, in 3 days you've seen 462 of them crash?
Yeah.
That's when Japan threw everything they had.
Now, was them or suicide, or were you guys shooting them down, or?
Oh, both.
Okay.
And so was our Air Force.
Yeah.
You know, they shoot down as many as they could. And that's what I say, it was like rain.
Oh,
They're coming down, they're on fire, these ones aren't.
Yeah.
These guys aren't. You know, it's just unbelievable. And 462 of them, they killed over 5,000 sailors in those 3 days.
Wow.
And that's the worst loss in naval history since the Revolution. They've never been hit that bad. And there was just no defense against it, really. You know, you just hope to God they missed you.
Yeah.
That was your defense.
Wow.
But there was, and that's a true estimate.
Yeah, like I said, I know I'm no historian, but like the crap they feed us. You know, the suicide bombers were at the end of the war, and it was.
They did anything.
You're saying right from the get-go, that's what they're doing.
And
wow.
And thank God that the good Japanese pilots were almost gone. You know, they fought our guys, and we eliminated them day by day.
Uh-huh.
And these kids that flew these things, and I read a lot about that, they just taught them how to fly. That's all.
But I didn't teach them how to land.
They only had enough fuel to get there.
Yeah.
They couldn't go home.
Yeah, I heard about that.
And, thank God they were that way. That's why so many of them missed. Okay, after the 462 kamikaze attacks come down in 3 days, making the worst loss for the history of the Navy, we hit another typhoon, and they ordered us into a harbor, and we went in the harbor and anchored, and the anchors wouldn't hold, so we were ordered out to sea. So we had to go out. We went out to sea and rode that typhoon for about 3 days, but we got through it all right. And then they sent us down to Leyte in preparation for the attack on Japan. And while they were doing that, this LCVP pulled alongside. The man went up and talked to our captain. He come down. The captain come down and asked me, "How long will it take me to get off the ship? You're being transferred." And I said, "Well, it won't take me very long." So anyhow, I went down to the locker and gathered up my stuff. Took about 15 minutes, and went back out and got into the same LCVP with this guy. And they had a guy on there that was really in bad shape. You talk about battle fatigue or whatever. He was completely out of it, just shaking and shivering and cuddled up in the corner. They were getting ready to take him over to the hospital ship. But they took me over to this big troop transport. It was called the Seagull. And it was carrying mostly, I think it was the 91st Division, the Army, sending them home. And those guys they were like animals. They were really rough. So when we got underway, I was down in the crew quarters with all those guys, and I didn't like it at all, because we had it pretty good on our ship. We ate good, we had good meals all the time, we had a good cook. And going back with these guys, I think they give you a bowl of cereal in the morning and a peanut butter sandwich in the afternoon, that was it.
Oh man. Were they Marines?
No, that's the Merchant Marine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were them guys,
No, those guys are all Army.
were they hand-to-hand combat? Were they
Yeah.
hardened war vets?
And it was funny too, because the master of the ship kept insisting on different things. Like he'd get on the speaker and he'd see him down there gambling or smoking. And he'd say, there'll be no gambling, no smoking on this ship.
Oh, wow.
And all he got back was this stuff.
Yeah.
Guys,
Yeah.
they just told
You
him
can't
where
stop
to
them guys from
They
smoking.
told him where to go, in plain words.
They used to give you cigarettes in your ration. They're not going to
Yeah,
stop you from smoking.
Anyhow, well, you weren't allowed to smoke on deck. And anyhow, that was pretty good until the captain, or that master there, called on the speaker and asked if there's anybody on board that could handle communications, which I could do, which I was very good at. So I got a berth up there with the Merchant Marine crew, which is completely different. I had my own bed, got 3 darn good meals a day. So it was pretty nice from then on. But, halfway across to Seattle, that was our port. Halfway across, the news come over, Japan surrendered. I think it was August 15th or something. I'm pretty sure that was the date. So anyhow, that night, the master of the ship ordered the ship lit up. And for years and years, you never seen a ship at night, because you weren't allowed to have any kind of a light at all. No running lights, no nothing. You run completely blacked out. And when they turned them lights on, it was just a terrible shock to us guys. And we figured within a half hour we was going to be torpedoed. But luckily, evidently, the Japanese U-boats got the same notice that we got, that the war was over.
I just read an article in the paper that said that 1952 is when the Japanese signed their treaty. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the article in my paper just said.
52?
Yeah, 1952 they signed the paper surrendering or something to that effect. A treaty of some kind from World War II.
Well, they signed a treaty, right?
Yeah, they must have, but.
Well, it was right
Well, I
there,
mean, you bombed them after you dropped the
45.
bombs.
Yeah. Well, another thing they did that was odd, the war ended in 45, but for some reason they allowed anybody in up through 1946 was eligible to be called a World War II veteran.
Yeah.
I don't know why they did that, but they did. So anyhow, after that, we lit up the ship and everybody was just about as happy as they could be. When we pulled into Seattle, we were the first vessel back after the end of the war. We were number 1. And the tugboats were out there with their fire hoses shooting water in the air, and a lot, just all kind of private boats, all of them filled with girls waving at us. It was perfect. And when we went into harbor, as big as that troop ship was, it went in this way.
Oh yeah, you guys all got over on the side, yeah.
So they could see the girls. And one guy just dove right off the ship. I don't know what happened to him. But he couldn't wait, I guess.
Wow.
But we got back, they treated us nice. They took us over to the Red Cross. We had coffee and donuts. And they got us ready, and they put me on a train from Seattle to Cleveland. And from Cleveland, they put me on a Greyhound bus home.
Wow.
And that was about the end of my enlistment, except after I was home about maybe a year, half a year, I joined the Naval Reserve under Captain Vaquero, but there's no record of that either. So,
Wow.
you know, I have some mysteries about my service. I don't understand why I was the only man taken off that ship, except for the length of time I'd been overseas. And the requirements, I guess, for getting discharged with a point system, I was way over that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not too savvy about it, but I never heard of a guy pulling 2.5 years. You never complained? 3.5 years?
Oh yeah,
You never complained?
I complained every day.
No
Didn't
kidding.
do any good though.
Oh, wow.
In fact, when we pulled into San Diego, we was in the Caribbean, went through the Panama Canal, come up the coast, and then we went to San Pedro. They was refitting us, putting on different radar and sonar, and I figured, boy, finally I get to go home. So I run out and asked the captain. I said, "Give me a lead, Captain." He says, "I can't do that. We're on standby." He says, "You mean I can't go home?" He says, "Nope."
You knew you were going over.
So I missed out there. I didn't get to go home. Anyhow, we took off. Well, I did get married there. Yeah, the first wife. I sent her a telegram. She was in Washington, D.C. And she come all the way across the country to train. And we got married, and I've got pictures of her on board ship. And it was like 3 or 4 days after we got married, they sent me overseas, and we sent her back to Washington. And I was gone for another year. That was it.
Wow.
And I come back, I was really happy to get home.
I bet. 3.5 years. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
there was, I think, near as I can remember, about 8 of us, maybe 6 to 8 of us, all went down that day and signed up together, and only 3 of them come back.
Oh, wow. They're your buddies, or?
Oh yeah, sure were.
80, you and 7 other guys
Well, I think it was 7.
joined up. High school buddies, or?
Yeah, it was all in
Wow.
high school. Yeah. Me,
3
Greg.
came back, huh?
Yeah.
Well, hey, this is Bill Kerr, the truly American hero, and the story. I wanted this story to be told, and this is what this man did. It's amazing, the greatest generation this America ever knew, right here.
Well, I thank you. I always wanted to do that.
We all
Yeah.
thank you.